What's up, people? I'm back. Happy Easter, everybody. I was supposed to do this yesterday, but it is what it is. But today, I am reviewing Taken, and originally I was only gonna do the first one, but I figured, why not? Check. I've never actually seen the sequels. I know of them. I've seen like it was either Cinema Sins or one of those type of channels, where they condensed movie. So I've seen it like that, and I don't really remember them. So now I figure we'll watch the other ones. But for me, Taken still should have only been one movie because to me, this was an interesting um, movie. Just the premise, about Brian. It's just about a man wanting to get his daughter back. Brian Mills. He's a trained soldier. Former Green Beret, ex-CIA, so he's a trained, he has a broken bond because, he's, having a divorce with, which I'll admit, Famke Jensen was straight up unlikable in this movie. I won't deny it, even though she was hot as fuck, but straight up unlikable. I can't deny it. But she has her daughter lies, and says she's going to go to Paris just to see, the museums, but turns out she's just going there just to go to a concert. Her daughter ends up getting trafficked. And I think that's the other thing. This movie kind of really highlights, sex trafficking. I think this is this and I would say Rambo, the last one, really are films. If you want to talk about that highlight, sex trafficking, I think both these films do it perfectly. And they're both good revenge stories. But back to this movie. And you get the iconic scene, the particular set of skills scene, which it's just such a well done scene, and he goes to Paris and he causes havoc just so he can get his daughter back. Very well made movie. The fight scenes are good. The fact that it's a kind of a low budget movie, is crazy to me. And I don't know why they decided to do sequels, because from what I remember, the second one is his wife goes missing. If I remember right, that's what the second one is. For me, they didn't need to do that again. I just don't think it needed a sequel. Taken is a one-off story about a man getting his daughter back, and then the final scene in the boat where he kills everybody to get his daughter. Perfect ending. It didn't need another movie. But I genuinely really liked. I remember really liking this at the time, and Liam Neeson showed he can be a great action star. There's not a lot of side, even though Brian has some friends he works with who helps him throughout the way, but largely it's just him, and him trying to save his daughter to have his wife, and then his wife has a boyfriend, who I remember him from 24. So there's a decent cast in this, but largely, yeah, Brian's on his own. But it's a very good revenge story, so I definitely recommend it, especially if you're one of those people who really like seeing bad guys get theirs. This is a good one example of that right there. So sucks, like I said, they made sequels. Even if the second one's decent, I just don't like the idea of it having a sequel. It didn't need one. That's why for a while I even refused to watch it. It was just because even at the time I was like, wait, why are we doing a second one? This is a one-off story. It's not like I like Liam Neeson, but I didn't really need more of it. Because yeah, like John Wick, right? There's a world, even within the first movie you watch it, there's a world around them where, okay, you can understandably build more lore around it. So I can understand getting a sequel to that. But Taken to me is just not as a case where you didn't need a sequel. But anyway. But definitely, if I would rate this film 9.5 out of 10, one great action film, hard-hitting, the fight scenes are well done, and I love the Bourne movies, but it wasn't doing that trend of cutting during fights and stuff. So it didn't do that trope. So overall, very good movie. And the fact, and Luc Besson wrote it, made a lot of great action movies. So, but yeah, tomorrow, I guess I'll announce this now. God damn it. Sorry, guys. Fucking plane. Anyway, I'm going to announce this now. On Mondays, I'm a gun for Mondays, but I'm going to start a series where I review best movies of decades, right? So I'm gonna do tomorrow. I'm gonna start with 1980. I figure 80 will be a perfect. The 80s will be perfect. So I'll list 5 to 10. Most likely with 80 will probably be five, just because I don't know if I can do 10 of some years, but I'm going from 80s to at least 2010s. So I'm gonna pick 5 to 10 movies from said year. So like eight, like for example, if like when I get to the 90s, like I'll do 10 movies from 96 that I think were great, and I'll explain them. So I want to make this a thing. This is actually something I've been kind of thinking about for a while, but I figured why not start it now? So I'll be doing that tomorrow. Tuesday, Man with the Golden Gun. That's the next Bond film I'm reviewing. I'll figure out what I'm doing Wednesday. Thursday, I'll be doing Taken 2. Yeah, it would be Taken 2. Yeah. So Thursday would be Taken 2. And then Friday, I thought there was a Hills Have Eyes 3. There wasn't. So we'll be doing the remake, which I actually found really good. So we'll be doing the remake. So I'll be doing that on Friday. So that's my schedule, at least up until now. Later tonight, I'm still doing that DC. Forgot to mention that. Yeah, I'm still doing that DC pitch. It'll be later tonight, probably nighttime. I don't know the exact time yet, but it'll be nighttime. But yeah, so that's my schedule basically throughout the week. So let's get started. So, we meet, Brian Mills. He's trying to get a closer, and that's the other thing. This movie goes relatively, like, he's trying to connect with his family. You can tell there's friction between him and his wife. And Kim. In this scene where he's working this concert as like kind of like a bouncer kind of guard. He's protecting the singer when a guy tries to attack the singer. He ends up. It's basically just a scene, kind of. It's basically just to show the skills that Mills had. That's kind of more what it was for. And then he talks with the singer, because there's a scene where he asked her how to be a singer. The singer obviously kind of was a bitch initially, but after saving her, she genuinely gives him an answer. This is where Kim asks to go to Paris with a friend. Initially, Mills declines, but after being kind of berated by his ex-wife, and because he's being overprotected, which for me, I understand like how young she is. It'd be one thing if she was like 18, 19, but in a strange place you don't know. I can understand. And I'm not even a dad. This is one of those things I just kind of understand it. So that's one thing I really like too. It's a relatable movie. Like you can understand like why Mills thinks that way, because it's like he's seen some shit. And that's the other thing. This was still out of time. Movies did not fucking beat you in the head with exposition. So you kind of like, for me, the way he's talking, there's some story there that isn't mentioned, but like he's probably seen some shit, and that's why he's probably overprotective, because he's like, he must have seen something. I like when movies do that. Like they don't like, you can kind of gather your own idea of what's going on without it like just explaining it to you. So he reluctantly ends up agreeing. He takes her to the airport. Tells her when she gets back to call him. This is when he finds out it wasn't about, because she says it was just about going to museums, but it was actually so she can go to a U2 concert on a European tour. They get to the airport. They meet Peter. So Peter this is where it's revealed he's like the guy who sets up the girls to get kidnapped, essentially. It's, crazy. I really like, this movie really shows how fucked up that is. Because the moment they get to their hotel, Kim and her friend are pretty much yeah, a bunch of men come in and basically kidnap the girls. And the scene where I'll admit it's very well done, and you're really into it, where Kim's like talking to her dad while it's happening, and like because even because I was 12 years old when the first one came out at the time when this came out, so it was like I probably wasn't thinking about it like that. But when you're thinking about this dude's hearing his daughter getting kidnapped because he ends up like she's under the bed, and then you hear guys drag her out. You hear her screaming, and he's hearing it the whole time. It, very well done. Like that is they captured Liam Neeson's acting captured it perfectly. So he enlists some friends to learn because I think the late language was Algerian, and this is where we get the particular set of skills scene. Very iconic scene. I will find you, and I will kill you. The way he delivers it, it's like, and then you get the good luck. So he then goes to after talking with his wife, and he learns Albanian because that's the language. So this is where they learn of his sex trafficking ring. And he learns that Kim has to be found within 96 hours, or she's basically gone forever. Like, the way they like really highlight that, so you like understand the rush. So Brian gets to Paris. He meets a friend of his who's a Paris cop. I'm trying to find his name. Oh, Jean-Claude Petrel. He's a friend of his who we actually find out later is working with the bad guys. But he finds Peter. Peter initially is about to lure another girl, and then Peter gets kidnapped by Brian. Brian starts to torture him in a taxi, but the guy who was with Peter, kind of instructing him to go, who point out the girl to him, attacks Brian. Brian ends up beating him up, but Peter runs away. Peter ends up nearly escaping, and then he gets hit by a truck. So this is where he meets with his friend, and his friend's trying to kind of keep him out of it. So then he goes to a brothel. Sorry. He goes to a brothel, this scene was fucking great. This movie goes, man. Like, there's no real build-up, really. Like the moment his daughter gets in Paris, there's no she's hanging out. No, she immediately pretty much gets kidnapped within a little bit. She's there. And you want him. This is a case of this is how you do a story like this, where you want fucking Brian to fuck these dudes up, and you want him to find his daughter. Very well done. It was compelling. So he ends up getting in a brothel, finding a woman who was drugged, who he thinks is his daughter because he recognizes her jacket. But I should go back. I'm going to go back a little bit. There's a scene where Brian goes to the hotel where his daughter was kidnapped, and when the spots where she was while he's calling her, even the spot where because Kim saw her friend get kidnapped from across. I loved how that was. Well, they did that, and then it would switch to what happened earlier. They did that so well. I had to point that out. That was just so we get a big chase scene between Brian and some of the bad guys, because the bad guys want the girl back, but Brian ends up killing them. He ends up taking the woman to the hotel. He tries to detoxify her. This is where she tells him of the house this is where she mentions the daughter. So then this is probably the scene, another scene I think most people know. Brian goes to the house posing as Petrel. And this is because he initially, everything's fine. And then Brian recognized the guy's voice because he does say good luck again, and he recognizes it. So then Brian starts a shit show. We get a big fight. Very, the action is hard hitting, no cutting away. And like I said, I like the Jason Bourne movies. I think the early ones were able to do that technique and make it still work. But that trend, those movies kind of did start that trend of constantly the constant cuts during the fights. So I like it when it's just one take. So Brian ends up fucking him up. He ends up finding a bunch of girls. He ends up finding Amanda, who's her Kim's friend. She ends up dying because of the overdose. And this is where we get the torture scene, and just, man, when he tortures the guy for information, because he I think he electrocutes him with a bunch of volt basically. So he forces him to tell him where Kim's location is. So he then confront Jean-Claude, because this is at this point he realized Jean-Claude was working with them, and he took the bullets from Jean-Claude's gun, because Jean-Claude grabbed his gun and was probably about to try to shoot Brian, and Brian already took the ammo. I was like, dude, I love shit like that. So knocks him out. He goes to the auction where he forces one of the guys to auction his daughter. And initially she buys, but it goes well. But then when Brian goes out, he gets knocked out. He gets tortured a bit by one of the bad guys. But Jean-Claude manages to break out and basically kills them all, including the last guy who tried to torture him in front of everybody. He then finds the yacht. And basically this is the last really section of the movie where he basically kills all the bad guys, including one trope I've always kind of hated in movies where a bad guy has the whatever hostage, they have him around the throat and the gun or a knife. I'm like, I love that Brian didn't even play that shit. He just straight up shoots the guy. I'm like, I've always felt like we should just shoot him. I'm not saying all the time, but that was a moment. I love he just shot. He's no fucking hesitation. Shoots him, gets his daughter back. He kind of reunites with their mom, and everybody's happy. Seems like his relationship with his wife's getting a bit better, and I guess we're gonna watch the second one now. The first Taken was historic. It was one of those action movies I think really set the tone for the time, and I still stand it should never have gotten a sequel. I love just how, it was a man wanting to get his daughter back. He didn't really need to do more. But yeah, the action was great. There were villains, but they didn't have a face. It wasn't like a Hans Gruber, right? Where this is the face of the villain in this movie. This movie is just kind of just generic sex traffickers, which works for me. That they don't always need to have a singular bad guy, a main bad guy. That's fine. I'm cool with that sometimes. I think it works in this case. He just wants to get his daughter back. That's his main mission, and I like how quick it goes. This movie gets going pretty quick, so definitely recommend if you've never seen Taken. I would argue, granted I haven't seen Taken 2, so I can't fully say, but maybe just watch the first one just by itself, because I just think it works as a standalone movie. Man wants revenge and gets his daughter back from sex traffickers. It's all. And that scene, the call scene is so iconic. When most people think of this movie, they think of that scene. So, yeah, Liam Neeson's a badass, so. But, yeah, guys, so not tomorrow. Tonight, I will be doing my DC movie pitch. I'll do a Bands I Love on Disturbed. I'll try to do that later in the week or in the next weekend. I wanted to try to do that today, but I just don't think I can do it today, so we'll just do it tomorrow. Or sometime later this week, but tonight I will be doing my DC movie pitch, because I feel like I got some ideas for DC too. It's sad how both Marvel and DC do they just not know what to do? I'm just a guy. I should, the fact that I could figure out what to do with these characters and they can't. Anyway, I don't want to turn this into a rant. It's insane to me. But yeah, I'll be doing that a little bit later tonight, but other than that, Taken's very much a great film. Heavily recommend. But yeah, guys, cheers and peace out. as usual. Talk to y'all later. Happy Easter. Peace.